Today I want to talk about formatting within a Google slide, especially if you're using something like a table, because unlike a Google Doc, if I keep typing and typing and typing, it bounces to the next page. If I put too much on a Google slide, it'll extend off the page, but then when I present my slideshow, nobody can see it. So for example, if I'm putting directions in here and my directions get too long, so I'm going to put a lot of text in here. When I actually go to present my slideshow, and if somebody's looking at it in presentation mode, everything's been cut off, and no matter how hard I try to scroll, I can't see anything below here. So we want to try to avoid that. So some troubleshooting tips if you're getting too much text and your table's getting cut off your slide. Number one, check the size of your font. Obviously, this font is really large. It doesn't need to be this large. So one thing I can do is highlight the text that I want to change, and then I come up to the toolbar here and I want to shrink that down to maybe a 10. I probably wouldn't advise going smaller than 10. If you're going smaller than 10, you probably need to take some text out. Which leads us into our next tip. Try to be concise as possible. Don't put too much in there. I know we want to try to explain as clearly as possible to our students, but if you're typing too much, maybe you need to link it to a Google Doc that has more explanation to it. So I'm going to take all of this out. I don't need this much text in here. If I have that much to say, maybe I should link it to a Google Doc. Which in turn leads us to our next troubleshooting tip. If I have a lot of information that I want to put in here, like a picture or a worksheet or a web page, I probably don't want to put it all within this tiny tip box of my table. For example, say I wanted to not even put this whole worksheet, I just want to put the web page link to this worksheet in my lesson plans. So I come up to the top, I copy my address, and then when I come back to my grid and I paste that in, that web address is still pretty long. And if I'm putting a couple of those in my table per day, that's going to start to stretch out my grid and it's going to cut off at the bottom. So a better way to do this is to put a hyperlink. A hyperlink is a set of text that has been linked to a web page. So in order to do that, I'm going to take out my web address and I'm just going to put a short piece of text. For example, I might say Scholastic SH digraph. Just any kind of explanation as to what you're linking to. Again, I'm even going to shrink it down. I don't need it that big. Now to create my hyperlink, I'm going to highlight all the text that I want to be part of my link. So I want all the words in my title to be part of one continuous link. So I highlight the whole title. And then I'm either going to come up here to my toolbar and find the paperclip looking icon. And you'll see as I hover over it, it says Insert Link. Or I could even right click right on that highlight. And you'll see about 3/4 of the way down my menu, I have that same link icon. So either way, I'm going to click the link icon. And you'll see my hyperlink box pops up. And it's going to ask me what do I want the text to say. And if I want to come in here and change it at this point, I could change it to SH, maybe and CH. Oops, I forgot the CH. You could always edit it in there. And then you just paste your web link right here and click apply. Now you can see that text has changed color and it's underlined. That tells me that it's a hyperlink. And as I start to go over it and click on it, you'll see that link will pop up to that web page. So now I don't have that big long web address. I just have a couple of words that I can now click on and they'll take me right there to that web page. The last piece of advice I have, if you've tried to narrow it down, you've tried to be concise as possible, you've put in all your web links and it's still a little bit too long, you may want to adjust your rows or columns a bit. So for example, if I come up to this slide, I know we're not going to have school on Friday. I'm not going to be typing anything in those boxes. I don't need it to be the same size as the others. Maybe I can shrink it down a little bit. So I'm going to shrink it down a little bit here. But now I've got this problem of I still have one big column and then 3 medium-sized. So I can now even out all those columns. I can stretch them all out a little bit and in turn move my text up a bit by highlighting one row. I highlight all the columns I want to even out. So I'm just going to go across Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday here. And then I'm going to right click anywhere in my highlight. I could also come up here and find this in format, but I find it easier to right click. And you'll see about 2/3 of the way down, I have distribute rows or distribute columns. I want to make all my columns evenly spaced, so I'm going to click distribute columns. Now they've stretched out equally. All 4 of these that I'm actually putting text in have more room. I don't need to worry about this. I could do the same thing with rows if I needed to. And I can also scooch them up. If I have a row that doesn't have a lot of text in it, I could come to the bottom of the row. And you'll see as I hover over the divider line, I'll get that double-headed arrow. And I can just scooch that line up a little bit. Now my row that doesn't need so much text has been shrunk down a bit. And the row at the bottom that maybe needs a little bit more text has that little bit of extra room. So those are just some tips and tricks for adjusting the formatting on your table in your Google slide. To double check, just come up here to present. Make sure you can see everything in presentation mode. Once I can see all 3 of my rows, I can see all the text, I'm good. Then I'm going to leave the formatting alone. As always, if you have any questions or need assistance, feel free to email me at jill.briscoe@rps205.com.